Zomer, welcome to Fashion Forensics.
Yes, thank you.
A designer dynamic duo that started out as a creative friendship. Your history as a designer has led you to work with brands like Louis Vuitton, Burberry, Chloe. Imruh, you have served as a stylist, some of the most incredible magazines, doing some of the most incredible editorials across the world. You still serve as the fashion director at Dazed. And you both started Zomer in 2023 with the aim to be bold and infuse colorful contemporary references from culture from both of your multicultural backgrounds and also growing up in the Netherlands. So my first question to you is, do you remember the first day that you met each other?
Do you?
Yeah, I think I do. I think I do. I was working in this concept store in Amsterdam, and Danial, who was the boyfriend at the time of my
your
colleague,
friend, yeah.
he came in with a big blue etude hat, and yeah, I think it was on an event. We did like this event at
Yeah. Okay,
and
now
I think
start to-
Daniel actually helped us cleaning
Yeah.
after the event, and that's how we got to know each other.
Yes.
And yeah, since then we basically we stayed friends.
Yeah, like it was
Yeah.
a concept store in Amsterdam that was the place for like the creatives in Amsterdam. And they had every week or every month they had like a good party. So our creatives sort of came, their students, like, you know, and I was a fashion student. So I was like, okay, you know, I need to be there. And he was like the cool guy in Amsterdam working at the store. So yeah, then navigated towards him.
And did you kind of immediately click on that creative level? What were the kind of references that you really...
And I think we definitely clicked as friends. Like it was like quite natural in a way. Like Daniel would pass by more and more, and like I would hang out with Lawrence and Daniel together. And but I think, I think I was quite interested as well in what Daniel was doing in a way. So then I think it was not his graduation collection. Even before that, he was working on it, and I was like, okay, maybe I can help on the pictures, or like, you know, like I just wanted to help and see what it's like to be on the fashion school, because myself, I didn't do an official fashion school, but I had a lot of friends around me who were on like fashion school, so I was just really drawn to it. I was just like, okay, let me just try to be in that in that world,
in that space.
In that space, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's maybe why I wanted to do it.
And for me, it was like I understood from research that designers work with stylists and brands, and I wanted to do like a professional shoot, you know, as a little kid. So then it was another opportunity then, you know, to work together and to do that. And I think that's where we also sort of clicked on artistical
references. Like,
what were the references?
Daniel's design was very super colorful, like overly colorful, and very bold, and very So that's I've always been super drawn to that. I think you can also see in my work as well. So it's really spoke to each other in a way. So I was quite excited about it. So
And Daniel, you come from a designer education, and growing up, what was your first touch point with fashion as a kid?
As a kid, I mean, I was really peculiar about what I wanted to wear. So my mom would pull out something and I would be like completely against it, and would always want to put like my own outfit together. So I think that's sort of the first kind of interaction with clothes. And then later, I mean, I was the kid that was drawing at school, and I was not really learning, and it was always something making. And so that's sort of my first interaction with like exploring art and being creative. So,
did you immediately want to kind of go into being a designer, or did you explore different creative avenues before?
Yeah, not at all. I was really like, first I thought, okay, maybe I love to draw. So then I didn't even actually understood that you could be a designer. So I first did actually graphic design. So I studied that, graduated, and then I realized I don't want to sit behind a computer for like 8 hours. I want to like make things. So then I switched to fashion.
And Imruh, for you, was it something from being a kid? Did you kind of have a touch point with fashion? How
Well,
did you get into it?
when I look back at my pictures as a kid, I'm still dressed the same, always quite colorful, quite yeah, like quite bold in a way. And I think definitely it was my mom that was dressing me, but also later, I would say like when the first time I got the understanding that clothes can tell something more than like they can add something to your personality was, I think, when I was like 13, 14, and when I like started buying things on eBay and like started hunting for these kind of, there was this brand called Panu. It's like a Scandinavian brand, and there was like I think club kids from Amsterdam were wearing those kind of brands. So I started yeah, it's trying to find it on eBay and like trying to get my hands on it. I actually bought a few like hoodies, and remember I had the time I wanted to wear like only Ralph Lauren long sleeve polos and shirts, and obviously we didn't have the budget at home to buy it, but I would go to like the marketplace of in the Netherlands, and so I think that's where it kind of I started to be aware of what I wanted to wear. I think that it's actually a statement to wear something. Um,
Mm.
and yeah.
I mean, I think you both come from a very interesting Dutch sense of fashion. I think when you were growing up, there was a very rebellious energy to Dutch fashion, and kind of younger labels, newer labels, independent labels popping up. There was almost kind of like a subculture that was driving fashion in the Netherlands. Would you say it was? How was it for you to grow up?
Which era are you talking?
Just like as teenagers, I think like early 2000s to up to 2010s. I think there was there was a boom in the sense of like streetwear becoming, more and more popular. How was it, as teenagers, what did you gravitate towards?
Well, I mean, I had all kind of subcultures influences. So I started as like a skater boy, then I became a Gucci boy. I had a face of Rick Owens where I was only wearing black. And I think as a designer, it's important to tap into those subcultures to, on one hand, it needs to really be authentic to you, but on the other hand, it's also okay to explore, and to find yourself. And that the second was for me the case that I was really looking for myself, and wanted to know, what is this skate culture about, and then dive into that. So I think for me it was just a bit of everything, and I really much enjoyed to have that sort of experiences with all the subcultures that I
have your fingers in all the pies.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah.
But can you name, for example, brands that you mean from this era? Because I think you.
I mean, I always think about like this is more of a streetwear skater brand, but like Huff, for example,
Huff,
like
the hundreds.
To me, that
hundreds.
was such a big moment, and even for me as a teenager, like growing up 2010s, Huff was like
Huff, the hundreds.
I mean, it was not Dutch, but Woodwood.
Woodwood. But also then I guess brands like Pata and
No, that's true. Like I eventually when I went from Gucci boy, I went to streetwear, and then I started working for a concept store called Gorilli Concept Store, and they were inspired by Colette in Paris. So it was the first concept store together with supermarket. And they were selling like all the streetwear brands, Billionaire Boys Club, ice cream as well. But at the same time they also had Raf Simons and Comme des Garçons, so it was a really nice mix. And I didn't know Comme des Garçons, but I knew Woodwood, you know, so I went in there, and then I started to learn more about the actual, the visionaries of fashion.
I mean, talking about the images that you guys gave me, they're very interesting because I can really see both of your kind of signature touches in them, like your references. A lot of them have to do with your work. So I want to start, and you can have a look at them if you want in front of you. I want to start with the first image you gave me, Danial, which was it's a still from the movie Requiem for a Dream.
Yes, correct.
Tell me why you chose this image.
Yes, so I mean, I was just thinking about like what had an impact on me as a kid, and Breaking from Dream by Darren Aronofsky really had that. And I think it's a very intense movie. You hate it or you love it, but it definitely you will leave the cinema or like your couch with a feeling of like something, and that really evoked in me that it was such an intense feeling, and I was so obsessed by the movie, so I started also researching it, and then I discovered also that Helmut Lang did a couple of the looks in the movie, and I didn't know who was Helmut Lang, but I was just obsessed with the top that Jennifer was wearing in it. And that sort of, it was not the main reason of my interest in fashion, but it sparked interest.
Yeah.
So through that, I discovered Helmut Lang and I dived into his world. So that had some sort of impact for me and like steered myself like into the direction of, okay, I'm gonna go into fashion. So yeah.
Did that kind of also inspire, because your work has always been very kind of high octane, as I like to call it. There's a lot of color, there's a lot of bold silhouettes. You've worked for fashion houses that have a very specific design language. How was it for you to come in with your own ideas and your own inspiration into such big of a machine, behind those brands?
Yes, no, I mean, of course, you like you say, it's an oiled machine, right? So you enter, but what was interesting is when every time I entered, the creative direction would change. So I started when there would be a new creative director. So it was a very dynamic period. So as a designer, you could really have an impact on the direction, which was really valuable for me to learn. And yeah, no, I mean, you give yourself to the brand, sort of your ideas, but you need to code it or like layer it with the key, like the ingredients of the brand. So yes, there's always a bit of you in there, but you're working on someone else's vision.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Was that kind of now coming into a brand where, you both share the vision and you have your own design language, you make the choices. What are the lessons that you've taken from those early years working for those brands as a designer?
Yeah, good question. Like I mean, yeah, like you learn so much, so to pinpoint an exact thing,
I think
I think discipline is, a lot of people talk about discipline when they launch their own brand because,
mhm.
like, again, we were talking with Jordan Luca earlier in the season, and they were saying, 80% of my job nowadays is to be an accountant, to be a lawyer, to be HR, because people don't realize when you run your own brand how designing is the beautiful part of it, but actually,
No, for sure, it's only like a small percentage of the company.
having people depend on you.
exactly.
Yeah.
Responsibilities.
Yes. Yeah.
But at the same time, also it's a beautiful thing that I think now you can push all the buttons yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Where a lot, like when you work in a house or for a brand, it's like that house or that vision almost takes you over. Sometimes I think a little bit.
And it's also nice to learn different aspects of having a brand. Like it's the first time that I'm doing finance or sourcing or production, but I do enjoy sort of learning a new almost craft.
Yeah. Because if the collection doesn't show on time,
exactly.
I mean,
that's the story to tell.
That's a story that we all experience.
I mean, basically, the story behind this is that you guys you're nominated for an LVMH Prize. You're finalists, which is a huge accolade, and I think it's also such a reward for your years of hard work and the work that you've put into the brand. But what people don't know is that 3 days before the show, your collection was not going to make it. Half of your collection.
we would not have a show.
I mean, like that's really definitely something that we learned logistics wise. Is that we will never we never take the risk anymore to receive something, let's say the weekend before the show. And we did it before and it always went well. But we ended up with a DHL package that had a lot of pieces of the collection that got stuck in Bulgaria.
Yeah, more than 60%.
In Sofia on the Saturday before the show. I think the Monday was, like the Sunday is a free day anyways, and Monday was actually a bank holiday in Bulgaria.
And your
And
show is on Tuesday at 10 a.m.
Exactly. And somehow we got in touch with our angel, literally.
Angel, exactly.
Literally our angel. I don't know how this happened, but your mother was a high chief in the DHL. Like,
No, but
I don't know, but it sounded like some mafia shit.
Yeah.
Like,
no, but we were basically. I got the call. I got a message from Danial. Danial, you
Yeah.
put it on your story,
yeah.
and she was like, "Do I know anybody in Bulgaria?" So
Yeah.
so me being Bulgarian, I was kind of like, "Oh, you know, maybe there's a lot of productions, or you want to shoot there, or."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, I can give you. I can put you in touch with some people. I can,
Yeah.
you know, give you tips."
Yeah.
And then you said to me, you were like, "Oh, we don't have a collection because it's stuck.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
today until 2 p.m.
then I
that is
caught
the
you
last-
crying.
And you got me crying."
Yeah.
But to me, it was, you know, I'm very happy that we managed to do it. But to me,
Yeah.
it was kind of interesting how, as an independent designer,
Yeah.
this is all of your work. You can, you know,
Yeah.
you cannot have a venue.
No.
You cannot have music, or lights can go wrong. Maybe you can
Yeah.
pivot. But
Yeah.
when
If-
you don't have
if you
a
have the clothes.
product-
I mean,
Yeah.
I was already thinking like we should just.
Yeah, he
have
was thinking,
models
like,
naked.
yeah.
Oh, like we
Yeah,
just do
yeah,
like a
yeah.
super like radical show
Yeah.
without clothes or something.
paper
you know?
dresses. Start
Exactly.
drawing paper dresses.
But like basically the we like really this miracle happened between us, but we should not have had that collection on time, you
No.
know, and it was really like we were really unlucky but very lucky at the same moment.
Insane.
And we are so thankful for that, but we also learned in a good way, and it's definitely a story that will ever maybe one day will end up in a book somewhere, you know.
Yeah, because the details of the story, like to get someone to the DHL container, the
Yeah.
DHL
to find
container
somebody
is,
else. Yeah.
Actually,
is
like,
already
yeah.
almost in the plane. Like you have to go to customs.
like
it's-
the office was closed on a Saturday,
Yeah,
and
it's insane.
you managed to have somebody coming into the office from Sofia, where we don't
on a bank
From a very
holiday.
On a bank
niche- from a very niche place.
DHL corporate company, impossible. In Paris it would have been impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done this. I knew that I was at that moment. I knew I had to push it because I knew I've done it with like styling stuff in Paris sometimes. Or
Yeah.
like it is. I know there's a little
There's a little leeway.
a little like leak in there somewhere to push it. But I was like, yeah, in Bulgaria, Sofia, it's never gonna happen. But it happened. But yeah, that also tells indeed, like, yeah, like, indeed the logistic part of doing collection and
How you learn on the job.
How you
Because
learn
you're
on
not
the job.
prepared. You're not prepared. because
Exactly.
You don't expect things to
and
go
I have
wrong.
to say, like, there's a lot of brands that, of course, I work also with other brands, and yeah, a lot of pieces still come in the weekend before. Like, it's not something unusual. Like,
No.
I think
yeah.
with a lot of designers or a lot of brands, is like why things are sometimes a bit later is because those, let's say, creative directors or the directors, they want to see all the options, spend literally all the time they can on, let's say, a creative idea or, like, let's say, a design, to make sure that, you know, you cannot, you basically spend all the time you can on it until the last moment, and then you make it, you know. And yeah, I think that's kind of part of a creative process sometimes, that yeah, I've seen it also in other houses that things come in later, but it always works, you know. And
Yeah. But it's also, I think, the fashion process of creating a collection
Yeah.
is so high stakes, high pressure in
Yeah.
that moment, because
you want to
Yeah.
make the best, you know, and to make the best, sometimes you want to use all the time that
Yeah,
is
you have.
out there. Yeah.
yeah, because again,
Yeah.
as again, you're not just solely focused on a design process. You don't start a collection 6 months before, but
Yeah.
because you have to do other things, you have to think
Yeah.
about the business, you have to run. You
But
have
also research, you want to go as deep as possible in the research.
Yeah.
You want to find something that actually nobody has maybe thought about, you know, like,
Yeah.
and that requires time, you know.
Speaking about the kind of design language,
Yeah.
this leads me to the second image, which was chosen by you, Imruh,
Yeah.
which is of your exhibition.
Yes.
Tell me why you decided to choose this image.
Yeah, I just thought it was like definitely like a key moment in my life, where I did this exhibition. I think it was the third one actually that I did, but it was just a very beautiful project where we created like clothing sculptures from like this place is called Le Relais. And they collect all clothes from people that throw away clothes. You know, those big containers that you see in the street.
Yeah.
There's like a big facility center 1 hour from Paris that sorts everything out. And we did a really beautiful project there with Air Foundation, it's called. And yeah, that project was like really just me and my team being super highly creative in the moment, and what do we create out of the pieces that we have now. So it was really yeah, how you say, like
It was like a monumental
yeah.
stage of your
And
life.
obviously it's like, I think that, for example, that sculpture that we did is yeah, it's just like the colors and the textures and the way how it's sculptural. I think it really yeah, it's really
represents you as
represents
well.
me in a way, I think. And yeah, it was in 35-37, which was before, like, it was the people from Comme des Garçons and Dover Street Market before it was Dover Street Market. So it was really an honor. I think it was the opening exhibition, and it was just really, yeah, a special moment in life. So I thought nice to.
I mean, this really represents, I think when I look at your work as an artist, this really represents a part of you where your work is all about, I think, the energy and the people and the body. And I think that colorfulness that comes into your life, you don't only portray images, but you kind of showcase the people behind those images, their personalities. I think that's very rare nowadays to see it, to not strip that down, to not strip people out of their own identity on an image.
Yeah.
Do you have any references that you always come in with, that you've kind of have kept throughout your career?
Yes. I mean, in the beginning, I really thought in the beginning that everything came out of instinct, you know? But then later in life, I did realize that a lot comes from what, like, I think where we are from definitely from the Netherlands. You know, artists like Piet Mondriaan or you know, Vivian Sassen. There's a lot of artists that play with color and shape in the Netherlands in a very modern way, which I'm sure subconsciously have been always super inspired by, and now I'm actually more aware of. And then also I do think that like my other roots are in the Caribbean, and when I went back there, I think 3 years ago, I somehow realized how everything on this island was about color and sweetness. So, for example, the food, super colorful, cakes, but also super sweet. The people were dressed really colorful, they were very sweet. The houses, you know, like, so I was like kind of linking it together.
Yeah.
So it's maybe not per se an art reference, but it's kind of something that I realized that maybe it's something more deeply rooted rather than something that I thought it just comes from myself, you know?
Yeah. You kind of see how everything's connected.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of realized how things are connected. I think that the Dutch and the Caribbean that mix you definitely see back in the work, I think. And yeah, also I think why, for example, those people on the islands or like in more tropical environments are dressed more colorful is because I think that's also because of the environment they live in. You know, like we live in Paris, which is very gray. You know, Europe is quite gray, brown, beige, navy, maybe. You know, and people are kind of camouflaging themselves into the city that they live in. And I think it's a similar thing in like more exotic countries where actually the birds and the trees and the sea are way more vibrant in colors. So yeah, so I would say art reference for sure. The Dutch artists for sure, and then there's also this other part of me that I think in the subconscious also plays as well. Yeah,
it has always been a part of you since you were quite young.
Yeah, exactly, always. And I always thought like, no, it's me, you know. But I'm sure that now I'm sure that's actually something more deeper rooted. Yeah.
Speaking about references, Danial, you chose the next image, which was back from your Burberry days and your work for Burberry.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about kind of the choice behind this image, but also the references that you have encountered throughout your life.
Yes, I mean, like it's I chose this image not specifically about the design or the model. It was just the time at Burberry that was so valuable for me. Like as a young designer, you enter like a house like that. It's a very demanding role. So you know, you really understand how hard the fashion industry can be, or at least like hard working. And you definitely learn discipline there, and you learn, you know, like if you have a certain passion, it's not gonna be from 9 till 6, but you really need to put in the hours. But what it made so special for me is the people there. So um like the team, and this sort of the team spirit, what I had there, that I want to really take on further into our own company. um because yeah, in the end of the day, you know, it was just so much fun, that you sort of forget the hardship
Yeah, you're
of
together like
yeah,
24/7.
exactly,
It
yeah.
almost feels like a family.
It's
Yeah.
cliche, but it feels like that, really. Like, you know, you work maybe till like, let's say 4 a.m., but and after 11 p.m., you can't be professional anymore. So, you know, you
Then
do
the
show
fun
your
comes.
true colors, and then you really sort of bond.
Yeah.
And you know, I've been like, yeah, I mean, they accepted me for who I was there, so I could bark through the whole the studio. I could stand on the tables, you know. So it was a really crazy but fun time. And next to that, I just learned also a lot from there.
Would you say in those moments of, I call it moments of delirium, where
Yeah.
there's so much pressure, but you kind of are not even thinking about the pressure anymore. You're just trying to get something done. Is that the moment where kind of the best ideas are born for you? Because some designers talk about how those are the moments that their best work comes alive.
Yes. I
How is
mean,
it?
yeah, it's a bit of both, because sometimes indeed I perform good with pressure. But on other times, I'm more like, because I had also experiences in the past where there was pressure, and then I sort of froze. So, and then when I'm frozen, then I can't create. So once I feel like comfortable and sort of safe, I can open up, and my creativity starts flowing. So it's a bit, yeah, you know, it's a mix of the two.
Yeah. And with the years of experience, you know, when you kind of look through all the things that you've done, and now that you know, now everything depends on you, because, you know, back then you work on a bigger teams. How do you achieve that safety? Do you achieve this with each other because it's the two of you, or do you achieve it by really just grounding yourself and knowing what matters to you at the end of the day?
Well, for me, it was also the fact that, you know, you work for someone else's vision, and now finally, like, we can work on our own. So there's no one who can say no, or, you know, it's the end decision is always with us. And I think that's really liberating. So I think that's already gives me sort of like the safety, and conveying in him, you know, about like ideas. um yeah, that's like Zomer is a certain like safe space, you know, like once when we create, um our interns are just as part of as
The process.
the process as we are.
Yeah.
So
And we always
um
say like it's a safe
yeah,
space. Like
yeah,
if you want to put a banana on somebody's face now,
yeah,
you
just
should.
do it.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
like,
yeah, 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 for
or I'm
sure.
just saying something, you know,
Yeah,
but like,
yeah, 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 yeah.
like
And it
maybe
kind of
this,
works, you know,
yeah, it
because
goes,
then like it sparks something, and then we're like, okay, well, the banana peel is actually really nice.
yeah, yeah,
You
exactly.
know, like,
Maybe the texture is
yeah,
something that we can use into the shoes, or
yeah,
Maybe it inspires the leather to a bag, to a
yeah,
yeah,
handle, to.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
exactly,
totally,
exactly.
totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like now you have kind of, at least Imruh specifically for you, do you feel like now you have achieved a work-life balance? Because, you know, Zomer is a huge part of your day-to-day, but you also have, you know, your job as a stylist,
Yeah.
fashion director.
Yeah.
How do you find balance?
Yeah. How do I find time? Free time?
How do you, yeah, how do you find balance between having your life and
Yeah.
inspiration and staying inspired?
Yeah, I do. I actually, I really, people always, a lot of people ask me, like, how do you know, like, do you even rest sometimes? But for me, it's also a hobby. So for me, a lot of things I do they don't, like, of course, they feel like work, but also I'm very aware that we have to be very blessed in what we do. So, and also part of my job is to be, actually to be creative is to have fun in a way. So I think that part for sure. I learned to not live it that heavy, those moments, just to enjoy the moment. And like, and again, it's a hobby. But then at the same time, also over the past years, I've really learned to really balance out also as well. I do a lot of like winter sports, water sports, running, and I really realized that really has effect on your body, but also on definitely on your mind. And so I think I'm not I'm not doing it on purpose, but I'm just I just like to be active, and by being active, you really MC. Like for me, it's better to be for a whole day active rather than to be on the beach and doing nothing.
Yeah.
I'd rather do a lot of non-related work stuff, but stay active. So it's like, let's say, water sports and etc. And I get more like inspiration, or let's say more peace of mind out of that than maybe sitting still. But so I really, in that way, really balance out. Like the moment I have free as a freelancer, sometimes it's like a midweek. I do also take it and I go somewhere, and I just try to see nature. I think for me also nature is definitely, especially the last years, really like to get closer to nature. It's really opens your mind up so much. So I know the setup somehow.
I mean, your work for Dazed has been very monumental in how we see imagery nowadays. Dazed has become one of the biggest magazines in the world about fashion. It's kind of at the forefront of fashion imagery right nowadays. And this leads me to your next image, which you chose, Imruh, is the Dream Chaser cover of Dazed,
yeah,
which is a quite special
yeah,
cover to you.
yeah,
Tell me
yeah.
a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, like in like magazine making and like being on a higher position, I'm very aware of that we have quite some opportunity in our hands to give, and like I like with that story with Tenzing, the kid, he's from Nepal. Like, to keep it really short, and of course after I will explain deeper, but I just wanted to show that with the right people around you, and no matter how old or young you are, you'll be able to do something really great. And like it started with a documentary that I saw about it's called Becoming You on Apple TV, and I saw it, I think now about 5 years ago. And they explain how kids, and of course somehow there's an obsession, like a childlike way of thinking, and they explain how the brain of kids work. So there's this one chapter where they explain about kids that they could have an obsession about a certain thing. So it could be football, it could be making painting, but then they follow this boy Tenzing in Nepal, who is obsessed with the camera, and he's just walking around with a little camera. He was 3 years old back then, and they also show his pictures. And I was looking at the documentary, I was like, "Wow, those pictures look quite amazing," because his friends are monks. The light is amazing there, like the whole environment it's perfect,
You see it also from the professional and the personal.
Exactly. I was looking at it in that point of view, and I was like, that would be so cool one day to shoot with that kid. And 2 years later, when I was, I think, 1 year in at Dazed, like together with Ibrahim and the team, there I was in a position that I had the freedom to push whoever I wanted to push in that moment. But I wanted to make the statement saying that, like the kids should take over one day. So that was a very special, I think it's still the most special shoot I've ever done, because I found the production company in the credits of the documentary. The production company like forwarded me to what's it called, like a fixer, who actually we did the shoot with. He found the kid, but he didn't actually tell us that if he wanted to still do it or not. So he just knew where he was. So I just went there with my team and with Ibi and Joya, who's a set designer, and the plan was just to go there and just literally a depth of what's gonna happen,
Which is
and
quite incredible
yeah,
and such a different experience
yeah,
from
and
a high produced
exactly,
shoot.
exactly, and I mean, after I've done this kind of style of shoot more times as well, but this time it was really the like we just went there with 6, 7 suitcases with amazing clothes though, a really good selection, but yeah, we didn't know what's gonna happen. We didn't know if the kid was even gonna be into photography still, because it was 2 years later. We arrived in Nepal. We had to fly to Pokhara. It's like a small town, also close to Himalaya. So we flew, we saw the Mount Everest. Okay, we arrive. And then the fixer told us, like, yeah, oh, we need to go to the principal of the boarding school that the kid is on because we need to ask the principal permission to shoot with the kids. I was like, oh my God.
That's incredible.
And I was like, okay, so he's actually it's not even approved. He was like, no, it's, we're gonna go there together. And so funny because, yeah, me, Ibby, maybe you should pull up a picture of Ibby in this, this podcast. My assistants, but like, we all look like some crazy hippies, you know? And I'm sure like we sat on a table like this with the principal to explain like, hey, we want to shoot with Tenzing. And I'm sure he mind has been blown because he was like, what are you doing
What's
here? You know?
happening?
Yeah. And then of course he gave us the permission at the end. And yeah, I mean, those stories, I think that's really for me what's like magazine making about. And uh you know, you need these kind of impact moments. And of course, he shot the whole series. The images are beautiful because of course we were there, you know. Ibby was there to put all the nice props around, and we for the styling we just opened the suitcase in the middle of the square of the boarding school, and the kids just started dressing up themselves. And you know, like it felt really honest and real in a way. And we just like we gave him the camera, and the first 5 minutes he was like really shy, but then he had like this little friend who was his assistant, our director assistant, who was like explaining him like, no, but you need to do this and this and this and this. And then and then like it's like the suitcase is opened and it was just like, yeah, it was going, you know. Yeah,
I mean,
beautiful. Yeah,
that's like, I think this is at the core of like what this everything that we do is about, is that human connection.
exactly, human
Yeah.
connection. And also like the message like everyone can do it, you know. It's a very like this industry is a very I say it's a I don't know the right word, but like it's quite a superficial, you know, context that we work in, right? Like everything
It's
is
very
kind of
stylized.
stylized and everyone has an opinion on something, but like at the end, you know, art and fashion, like it's subjective, you know. So like nobody actually decides what is beautiful, how you should do it. So like, yeah, in that moment with the kids, it was literally that, you know, like they decided and we just went with it. And yeah, a lot of times still like working, I just, yeah, you know, there's a lot of ways that lead to Rome to make a good picture as well.
Yeah.
But then again, of course, that was a statement. And of course, we did the whole like exhibition after funding for Tenzing. And of course, he's still invited to like one day to study photography in London. And you know, we really made sure he's like, it's not just a story, hey, we come and we go. We actually made it like we will. I will be there for him whenever he's old enough. But also it was a general statement. So yeah,
I think you really hit the nail on the head in the sense of
yeah,
how important fashion and image making is about human connection,
Yeah.
and connecting with each other.
Yeah.
And again, this is something sometimes you have to strip things back
Yeah.
in order for you to move forward.
yeah,
Because,
yeah,
you know, I think fashion is one of the very few places where we still are real humans. They
Yeah.
need real clothes, but also they need real storytelling.
yeah. And also like just sorry to talk about like shoots like these. Like when I travel a lot for work. I've been to a lot of beautiful places, and for me those shoots where we go into and we dive into somebody's like a culture or like something that we don't know in the Western world are the most beautiful ones to me. But I did learn how to like do it in a sustainable way. So like now I really like a big part of being a stylist is really to prep everything the right way.
Mhm.
So also like don't travel with 20 suitcases somewhere. I've done it, but it's a pain in the ass.
Learn how to edit.
Learn how to edit.
Yeah.
For example, I went to Kenya 2 months ago, and we go with 4 or 5 suitcases, just with the looks already prepared. We know what we're gonna do. We just need to find the people and like the moments, but at least, you know, it's also really part of like being prepared, you know, like the decisions can be made before, and then you can be free
to focus on that
exactly in the
connection we talked
moment.
about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm always amazed by, you know, like such shoots can be so expensive,
Yeah.
but like you can make such beautiful pictures with so less budget, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be all these big productions.
Yeah. Sometimes
Um,
those big productions, they desaturate the whole image, you know,
Yeah.
and it's because there's so many chefs in the kitchen deciding on things, and
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's just about, yeah, I always just come in with a lot of energy, and whenever I go somewhere and like try to portray that in the image. So yeah.
I mean, speaking of like energy and how to build human connection, this leads me to the last image, which I'm very
Yeah.
excited to talk about. This was your first image for Zomer.
Yeah.
I remember your debut show, and ever since then, you've always, you guys don't take a bow personally.
Yeah.
You always have different versions of you. You've had the kid versions of you,
Yeah.
the older versions of you,
Girl.
the female presenting versions of you. Tell me a little bit about that kind of first decision to create Zomer and how it happened.
Like the idea of
Just
the brand.
yeah. How you started working that.
Yeah, no, I mean, as we said, Imruh were like fell in love over image making and creating something. So that sort of continued throughout my graduation project, and then he again helped me with that. And you know, it went like I got selected for Jaarg Festival, and then we were like, okay, you know, maybe we should start something.
Yeah.
We always say this, you know, but
Yeah.
like.
But then also like
Yeah.
we also understood that we were
Yeah.
nobody, you know, we were
Yeah.
22, 23, and like we understood that maybe we should
Yeah,
build
no
up
network, no money.
and exactly money,
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
We also understood that making a brand, like, you know, maybe if we would start it when we were at 22, 23, we might have been now on the same point, but maybe the way would have been way more harder. We might have, you know, like, or like not, but we chose for like doing it in a timing where we knew that we were strong enough to keep up a brand. And
so this idea has been in the works
so
for
the idea
almost
was
10
there.
years.
Yes, exactly. The idea was there, and then eventually we were just like, okay, you know, I'll dive into design, you dive into styling, and of course we stayed friends throughout. But then eventually, 2 years ago, we decided to jump and to, you know, create our own platform. But it was always a dream.
And this particular like start of the brand, it happened because we were gonna show the collection in September, but we did understand we need to kind of make people aware that something is coming, right? But then we're thinking like, okay, how do we talk about collection, but we cannot show the collection? So what do we show? So
how do you say something without saying something?
Exactly. So then we're thinking like, okay, what about if we portray the people that normally respond to a collection? And so we would we in the rest of the part of the series, and you can maybe add it to the podcast, but we basically recreated like mini-me's of like
It's Just Kids campaign.
Exactly, like
the people who judge a collection,
or
shoot like, a collection.
Iconic fashion icons.
Exactly.
I remember Anna Winter,
big editor,
Stephen Meisel, Susie
photographer,
Menkes,
exactly,
Pat
McGrath, makeup artist. So like we're just thinking like who are the people that respond towards a collection in any way? So let's say lead makeup artists, photographers, editors, and maybe we can redo them and talk about them. Of course, it's a fun media stunt, but at the same time, it's also like, okay, we are preparing something, you know.
And it was also the foundation for the brand, because like how we work within Zomer is very childlike approach. So it's very intuitive. And it's very playful. So it really aligned. The first campaign really aligned with the brand identity.
Yeah, we
I
just want.
also think that your brand represents a new generation of fashion designers where you don't keep your audience at a distance. You're kind of are very much involved in with your
Yeah,
audience because that childlike feeling translates into your collections. You
Yeah.
know, like your very last show that you just showed in February. You know, you kind of started back. You know, there was this playful approach of back to front. You know, the
Yeah.
show starts back to front,
Yeah.
but you as people also are very close to the brand, very close to the people that buy the brand.
Yeah.
So how was that intentional, or was that just kind of a natural thing that developed with your first season onwards?
Yeah, I think we're both
Yeah.
quite we have quite a personal approach towards the people that we work with.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking about how Zomer has developed, I mean, you in the kind of 2 years that you have worked, you know, you're going into your second year now, you have developed the brand tremendously. You know, the brand has gone up. You now have, you know, you applied for LVMH Prize, you made it to the semifinal, and now you're finalists, which is a monumental achievement
Yeah.
for you and for a brand like yours.
Yeah.
And can you tell me a little bit about the feeling of those past 2 years? If you have to like really think about how have those past 2 years been like individually for both? I'll start with that.
I mean, of course, like, you know, people are always like, oh yes, you know, like within 2 years you already achieved that, and you have buyers there, and you have stores there, la la la. And we're super grateful for that, you know, and it's amazing. But we did work already in the industry for like 8+ years, so we have the experience and the network that really helped the brand as well. So, you know, we can anticipate on certain problems. So, you know, it goes quite fast, and we do have a couple pinch me moments of like, okay, you know, we do also need to celebrate them, which we're not really good at yet, but
Yeah.
you know, yeah, no, it's going pretty fast.
You almost don't even realize
Yeah.
when you achieve something because
Yeah.
to you it's just the next thing
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it like for you, Imruh?
Yeah. Same. But yeah, I mean, it's really special that every like, you know, thing on the checklist until now is being checked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but also, yeah, indeed, we do put a lot of work in it. But at the same time, what people don't maybe see is that, of course, indeed, what Daniel says is like we have our stores and we have you know, people behind us, but yeah, to really be a healthy brand, to actually you know, stand on our own feet, that's going to take a little while still, you know, like it's like a lot of people from the outside, because maybe the show and the images and everything looks beautiful, they always think that we are already there and like
Yeah.
we have big budgets and everything, but
behind the scenes, you're
Behind
trying
the
to get a DHL package 2 days before.
Exactly. So like,
This is the
like,
reality.
you know, like the beautiful on the outside is what people see, but at the same time, yeah, there's a lot of we definitely yeah, we are still in a growing phase, and we are like, you know, yeah, there's still like definitely on the financial side, we there's a lot of steps to take still.
Mm.
And I think I really believe in this in Zomer and in the project in general. And I also believe that if we just continue like this, there will only the only way is that success will happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, how I would look at it, the whole, let's say, roller coaster is like it's going really in a nice stable
Nice
line.
steep incline.
And
Yeah.
sometimes we are a little bit impatient. It's like, okay, you know, when is this next step happening? And it happens, you know, but it's like we still have that, like, okay, achieve this. This is the next thing on the checklist. Okay, let's work on that. Okay,
Yeah.
achieved. Next thing on the checklist.
done.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like checking down those things until we can really say it's a big and healthy brand, you know?
company. Yeah.
Yeah.
My final question for you is,
Yeah.
how do you see the future moving forward? Imruh?
In general, or with the brand?
Any kind, whatever comes to your mind.
How do I see the future moving forward? Yeah, I think in general in the world, I think we're gonna be surprised. That I would say, we will be surprised at some point.
Whether it's a good or a bad surprise.
I don't know. I don't know.
I
I
think
think
surprise.
I think we will be surprised by how, let's say, strong how strong, for example, computers become, but also surprised about how vicious human can be. Um, and I'm just talking in general, so not about the brand, but just like the
But
world.
also the power
we
of
live in.
communities.
I think, yeah, but I do think that we're gonna be like, there will be like, we'll be surprised about what's gonna happen in the world, and it might at some day make our work maybe not so relevant anymore. That's what I think. But that's maybe a very dark thought for a very joyful person. But yeah,
It's a very sober approach.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Danielle, for you?
Well, I'm just thinking about the brand. So,
yeah. Sorry.
no, for me, I just like my final, like non-final goal. My main goal at the moment is just to be a healthy company. I want to pay the people who work for us and give us favors like on a correct way.
Yeah,
So that's really what we're striving for.
yeah.
And then I had this conversation, with like with our brand director, and she was like, "No, you should aim higher. You should like aim for world dominance." And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do that after. Like let's do it step by step."
Yeah.
So this is like what I see for the future to a healthy company.
Zomer, thank you so much for being on Fashion
Thank you for
Forensics.
having us.
Thank you.